So we are updating the Karen Reed trial right now. This is, it's attracted worldwide attention. If you have not followed it, it is the case of this woman who is accused of hitting her police officer boyfriend in the evening with her SUV, leaving him for dead. He did end up dying. This was back in 2022. The first case was a mistrial, so she was brought back, retried, and I think as of late, the jury has been deliberating for like 9 hours. Yesterday, I think that was the first day of deliberation, so could it end in another mistrial? We wanted to get more information on this. Karen Conti, defense attorney, joins us right now. Good morning, Karen.
Hey, Karen.
Good morning, Nat and Anthony. How are you?
Good.
Good.
This case, I mean, you can't go anywhere without hearing a new thread, in this case, a new wrinkle. But let's stick to the jury deliberations here. Karen, is there a rule of thumb of how long typically juries deliberate?
Actually, there is.
Okay.
Among trial lawyers, the rule of thumb is 1 day for every week of trial. And again, that is just a rule of thumb. So in this case, it was about an 8-week jury trial. So if you apply that, then, maybe 8 days of deliberations. Again, it depends on so many things. It depends on how complicated the case is, how many counts there are that have to deliberate, how complicated the jury instructions are, and most importantly, the personality of the jurors. Because if you have jurors with very strong viewpoints, you're going to have a lot of contention and you're going to have a lot of deliberation, or you could call it fighting and arguing. So all of those go into the length of the deliberations.
Another rule of thumb question here, Karen. The longer the jury is out, does that tend to favor the prosecution or the defense?
Well, the wisdom is that the longer the jury is out, the more they're thinking about reasonable doubt, which goes to the defense, right? Because if everyone thought at the very beginning, when the jurors usually get together at the beginning and take an initial vote, that's generally what happens. If there is a consensus, then they may whip through that evidence very quickly just to confirm their thoughts. But if there was a divisive kind of thing going on, then they're going to go through all the evidence, which is better for the defense. But remember Scott Peterson? They were out for over 7 days, and it was a complete guilty verdict on everything. And Casey Anthony, that case was out for a week, and she was not guilty. So those rules of thumb, they're just rules of thumb.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so in a high-profile case like this, Karen, does a jury, you think, take more time to reach a verdict because they feel like the whole country is watching, kind of the weight of the world is on their shoulders?
I absolutely think that's the case. That being said, I think jurors do a really good job. I think that generally speaking, people who serve on juries are very conscientious and they want to do a good job. They want to get it right. They don't want to walk out of there feeling like they did a disservice to anyone. But when you see those crowds, when you're coming in to serve on a jury, when you have read about the case, where you know that another jury has sat, and you know that maybe you're going to be asked by the media to explain your verdict, whatever it is, I think there is extra care that those jurors put in when they're making these deliberations.
Yeah, it was interesting. It occurs to me when you said that we reported this morning one of the Diddy Combs jurors jeopardized the running of the trial because he apparently was untruthful about where he was from, and they were saying that he lied because he wanted to be on that jury, which shows this element of bias, right?
Well, exactly. And you know what the law says, and the appellate courts have said that if a juror is deemed to have lied, the idea is that they either lied to get on the jury to convict or get on the jury to acquit. There was an agenda. Otherwise, why would a juror lie when you're sworn under oath to tell the truth on those jury questionnaires? And we've seen that. We saw that in the George Ryan trial, where we had people lie about their felony convictions and the like. And that really messes up a trial because, again, that could make the whole case a mistrial and have to go back and retry it another time.
What is the likelihood, if there is a mistrial in the first case, that the second case will also be a mistrial?
Well, in the first case, if you remember, there were 2 counts where the jury voted to acquit her, and the third count was where they were deadlocked. So, again, when you are on the jury and you know that this is a retrial, you know that 12 people did not reach a conclusion and maybe had some reasonable doubt, it seems to me that that might wire the jury to think maybe I should have reasonable doubt too, because those 12 people did. So, again, I would say that because this is a retrial, I think the chances for Karen Reed succeeding here are a little bit greater.
follow-up question to that. In the new trial, though, isn't new evidence presented? And so, or is it not?
It can be.
Okay.
Absolutely. There's no binding effect. So, like in the first trial, there was a police chief who testified, and it turns out he was saying horrible things about Karen Reed, sexual in nature, that he was talking to people who were at that party where the decedent had gone, and it was kind of shown that he was messing up the investigation. So they kept him off the stand in the second trial for good reason. So yes, you can have new evidence, you can leave off evidence, and you can maybe rectify the mistakes you made the first time.
If that doesn't happen and the mistakes were not rectified, there's another hung jury here. If you're the prosecutor, do you say, hey, third time could be a charm, or what would you foresee happening?
Well, it's like Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah.
You know, the prosecutors want her convicted. This is a high-profile case, and prosecutors, as defense lawyers, you know, are very competitive, and they don't want to lose. I think they're going to retry her. Now, will they go to her and to her lawyers and say, listen, let's plea bargain this down. Let's take the least stringent, you know, sentence we can give you on these charges, and let's have you plead guilty to that and be done with it, just to try to eliminate all the possibilities. Will that go forward? I don't know, but it could happen.
You have said in the past, Karen, on the broadcast that the defense has an advantage when the case is being retried. Why do you think that is?
Well, the defense has the transcript of the trial, the first trial, meaning there is a word-by-word testimony of all the witnesses. And when you have that as a defense lawyer, you can make a lot of points on saying, well, on the day of the investigation, you said this. On the day of the trial, you said this, and now you're saying this. And so you use that in your cross-examination to what we call impeach the credibility, the memory of all these witnesses. And also, the longer the time goes by from the date of the crime, the more people's memories fade and they change. And so that all goes to the defense benefit when you're talking about reasonable doubt.
It feels like the options for the jurors here are both just so dramatic in nature. It's either this murder or it's this like elaborate framing and cover-up. It's not like they're choosing between, oh, it was an accident or it was intentional, like a lot of murder trials. These two options are just like wildly dramatic. Karen, in your mind, what factors, I mean, I brought up one, but like, are making this such a spectacle nationally?
Well, I think that you have Karen Reed, who is an attractive woman. She's a successful woman. She's intelligent. And I think you have really dynamic lawyers. And again, you're right. It's so polarizing. I mean, this is the idea. Her defense is, you guys messed this up from the beginning. You guys got the blood samples wrong. You pinned it on Karen Reed from the beginning. You said horrible things about her. You wanted to protect the police officers here who may have done something. And it's just, it has all the elements of drama here. And it really has caught fire. And it should be very interesting to see what the jury thinks.
We will be following right along. Karen Conti, always a pleasure to talk to you and kind of dive into these cases. Appreciate it.
Good to see you.